Instinctif Partners Africa has reputation management expertise in multiple markets across the continent. The company is fluent in politics, economics, and governance, advising organizations in many dynamic, emerging markets that call our continent home. They counsel clients across sectors, defining Africa's economic growth and development agenda, working with them to achieve shared value through invested and informed communication initiatives. Part of an international agency, the business has recently embarked in a new strategic direction, Reinventing Responsibility. Welcome to Window on the Week, where I, Aneshan Pillay at Risk Insights, shares industry professionals and thought leaders' perspective on ESG. Let me welcome Fred Cornet, Managing Partner at Instinctif Partners, to give us some privileged insights to Reinventing Responsibility. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Anesh, to have a conversation with you about it.
So let's get straight into it. Reinventing responsibility. I love the sound of that. Tell us a little bit more about Instinctif's global strategy and why you have chosen to follow this route in particular.
I think ESG issues are increasingly and should be a top concern for corporate management and boards in particular. So the launch of Reinventing Responsibility for the group came as a natural evolution for us. Our clients were increasingly asking for it, and they wanted a different approach. Something more integrated, and that included a strategy that actually can be implemented. I think it's also useful to think about some time ago, I think that ESG issues were dealt with as a PR tactic. And I think today, with the rapidly changing business environment, attention to ESG issues is becoming critical to long-term competitive success for many companies. So put simply, it's no longer just about reputation, it's really about managing risk and managing your bottom line accordingly. So businesses need insights and consultancy and active support to remake the foundation and the base on which they deal with ESG for the medium term or the long term even. And I think lots of consultancies are providing services such as management, PR, technical, branding, reporting, but there wasn't really an integrated offer that was available in the market. So we looked at what we can bring, and it's a really unique blend of perspective and sector knowledge. It goes from insights, public policy, investor relation, consultancy, branding, reporting, and communications. And I think it's the necessary bedrock to help guide clients into their new future. So the end point is that we'll need to build clients' understanding, capabilities, and networks to prosper in the future. And the business of the business challenges of the next decade are not going to be around technology. It's more about emotional engagement, I think.
So it seems that Instinctif has clearly looked at the market, looked at the need of the market, and provided a holistic solution in terms of integrating ESG into their offering. So well done on your side for seeing this opportunity and actually being able to incorporate that into your service offering. So why do you believe Risk Insights, with our AI-driven ESG rating tool, can assist Instinctif in achieving its strategic purpose and vision?
Thank you, Anesh. So for us, ESG integration doesn't end with the publication of a sustainability report. We take a systematic approach to sustainability, and it requires a level of integration, regular analysis of the peer landscape, reassessment of material issues, review and improvement of the sustainability strategy commitment, and messaging overall. So it's clear that to start the process and review progress at regular intervals, you need data. And the reason why we're having the conversation today is the ESG rating tool that Risk Insights has launched provides exactly that in an objective manner through your AI processes, which I think is definitely going to be more prevalent in the future in many of the sectors. and it's updated constantly. And I think it's a great way for clients to assess their position and compare with their peers over time.
So Fred, that is exactly the purpose of our ESG GPS rating tool, is to allow consulting companies globally, like Instinctif, to be able to inform companies about their communication, about their reporting in terms of ESG strategies. So how is Instinctif assisting clients in the ESG space? And how can you use ESG GPS in future to do so?
Well, we believe that companies need to take a systems approach to develop their ESG strategies. Our ESG Reinventing Responsibility helps build an implementable sustainability strategy that's basically tailored for each client's environment, which vary greatly. So there are various levels of intensity based on a client size and complexity, from a complete makeover to helping a corporate level translate the internal effort into customer-facing propositions and messages with appropriate guidelines and safeguards, meaning that they're actually doing already a lot of good internally. It's just not being communicated across stakeholders properly. So there are various levels of involvement. Typically, the process goes through 5 phases, some of which require benchmarking and an up-to-date health check, which obviously leans on risk insights capabilities. The development of the strategy, ESG statement, and the reporting approach is not a quick process, but taking the time to do it right ensures that you actually have a foundation that will take you into the medium to long term. And using some of the tools through ESG GPS is certainly a key pillar of it.
We have our own views, Fred, but tell us, from your insights, which sectors do you believe require improvements in terms of ESG disclosure and why?
Good question, Anesh. And as you know, we already looked at some sectors together, including banking and mining, using your data. And we're going to do some more of that benchmarking work and comparative work in the future. I don't believe that it can be viewed as a sector-specific issue. For example, sectors that have large companies as their constituents with complex value chains locally and internationally tend to have more pressures and resources allocated to report more effectively. We're also seeing a real emphasis on ESG, socially responsible and impact investing, attracting a growing amount of capital around the world, not only through the capital markets, but right through the financial systems. And in South Africa, we've seen banks are stepping up to the challenge on global warming through their own investment criteria. On the other hand, large asset managers such as BlackRock have taken a stance and are passing the pressure on to the investee companies with a very clear target in mind for each of them. And shareholder activism more generally and government scrutiny is on the rise everywhere. And we have seen the tech sector coming under a lot of pressure recently. So going to sectors, my view generally is, for example, the extractive industries have come some way in reporting better and addressing issues. And that may be because when things go wrong, they go really wrong and it's very public. There are many instances of that from Brazil to South Africa to Russia and around the world. And less labor-intensive sectors such as the real estate still have to contend with achieving various environmental certifications. Many REITs that have tapped green bond market to fund their growth in sustainable assets and projects, so they can improve sustainability initiatives and expand the investor base.
So Fred, I concur with you. From our own research, we saw that $1.65 trillion in assets flowing into sustainable funds in 2020 globally. So clearly the capital allocation going forward will depend on your ability to reduce your ESG risk. So how does South Africa and Africa compare globally in terms of reporting and comms on ESG?
Well, Anesh, from a global perspective, meaningful and genuine ESG reporting is still in its infancy. I think many developed and emerging markets are coming short on adequate reporting that includes measurable targets and clear programs to run them out. So the complex landscape of sustainability and ESG frameworks and standards have created confusion among producers and users of the sustainability information. And that's made it harder to develop the comprehensive solution for corporate reporting that is urgently needed. I mean, last year, 5 frameworks and standard setting institutions internationally, CDP, CDSB, GRI, IRRC, etc., have come together to help resolve the confusion and to show commitment to working towards a better and more comprehensive corporate reporting system. So the first step for them now is going to be the publication of a joint market guidance. And although they haven't provided a concrete timescale, we're hopeful that a real step towards integration will be made really soon. A bit closer to home in South Africa, ESG has had a long journey in terms of reporting, and that was driven by governance guidelines, including the King Codes. And let's not forget, it was first published in 1994, and there were other regulations that came afterwards. So while I think in theory it is world-class, there is quite a long way to go when it comes to the application of the complex business ability to understand the true ESG ecosystem and deploy programs that are well aligned to improve their positions. In Africa, it's no different. Many corporates are now focusing the need to take the ESG reporting to the next level and invest accordingly. I think that, as with many other things in Africa, I certainly believe that it will leapfrog into the future.
Thank you, Fred, for some thought-provoking insights. We'll be seeing a lot more of Fred and the Instinctif team through collaborative pieces and media events this year. So watch the space for some exciting developments.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anashrin. It's definitely a space to watch, and we're excited about the opportunity to assist more African corporates on their journey to reinventing responsibility.
And working with Risk Insights, of course.
Yeah, of course, definitely, Anashrin.
I am Aneshrin Pillai, Acting CEO of Risk Insights, and thank you for joining us for this episode of Window on the Week. We look forward to seeing you next week. Stay safe.